Good morning, America. This is Laura Ingram with a special report on how President Trump's hardline immigration policies are casting a long shadow over the 2026 FIFA World Cup, threatening boycotts, economic fallout, and America's global standing. From visa bans hitting fans of qualified teams to ICE's role in security sparking international outrage, we're diving into the brewing storm that's already costing cities millions and drawing parallels to Russia's sports isolation. It's a wake-up call on borders, boycotts, and billions at stake. And it all starts with a controversial award that's raising eyebrows worldwide. President Trump received the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize in December 2025. In a high-profile ceremony held at FIFA headquarters in December 2025, President Donald Trump was awarded the very first FIFA Peace Prize. FIFA President Gianni Infantino personally handed over the honor, describing Trump as a leader who has brought people together on and off the field through his vision for global unity and strength. The award was framed as acknowledgement of efforts to promote peace via sport and international cooperation. Trump accepted the prize with visible pride, calling it a testament to America's renewed standing under his leadership. However, the timing drew sharp backlash from critics worldwide. Many pointed to ongoing U.S. military activities abroad, including reported strikes and interventions in regions like Venezuela, as well as the aggressive domestic immigration enforcement campaigns that have sparked protests and international condemnation. Human rights organizations and several foreign governments questioned the decision, arguing that granting a peace award amid such controversies undermines FIFA's credibility and sends a confusing message about what qualifies as peaceful leadership in the eyes of the global soccer body. Supporters countered that the prize celebrates diplomatic breakthroughs and economic partnerships fostered during Trump's term. But the divide highlighted deeper tensions between the administration's policies and the international sports community's stated values of inclusivity and nonviolence. The Trump administration recently broadened its travel and visa policies, placing indefinite suspensions on immigrant visas and tightening entry rules for citizens from as many as 39 designated countries. Among those affected are several nations whose national teams have already qualified or are strong contenders for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, such as Haiti, Senegal, Ivory Coast, and Iran. This expansion builds on earlier restrictions and has created significant uncertainty for millions of potential fans planning to travel to the United States for matches hosted in cities across the country. Visa applicants from these nations now face prolonged delays, outright denials, or unpredictable processing times, even for short-term tourist visits tied to sporting events. FIFA officials have privately expressed concern that these measures could drastically reduce attendance from key regions, particularly Africa and parts of the Middle East and Caribbean, where passionate soccer followings exist. Travel agencies specializing in World Cup packages have reported a sharp drop in bookings from restricted countries, with many fans opting to watch remotely or redirect support to matches in Canada or Mexico. Advocacy groups warn that the policy risks turning the tournament into an exclusionary event, contradicting FIFA's long-standing emphasis on global participation and accessibility for supporters of every qualifying team. The Trump administration recently broadened its travel and visa policies, placing indefinite suspensions on immigrant visas and tightening entry rules for citizens from as many as 75 designated countries. Among those affected are several nations whose national teams have already qualified or are strong contenders for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, such as Brazil, Colombia, Egypt, Ghana, Haiti, Iran, Ivory Coast, Morocco, and Senegal. This expansion builds on earlier restrictions and has created significant uncertainty for millions of potential fans planning to travel to the United States for matches hosted in cities across the country. Visa applicants from these nations now face prolonged delays, outright denials, or unpredictable processing times, even for short-term tourist visits tied to sporting events. FIFA officials have privately expressed concern that these measures could drastically reduce attendance from key regions, particularly Africa, Latin America, and parts of the Middle East and Caribbean, where passionate soccer followings exist. Travel agencies specializing in World Cup packages have reported a sharp drop in bookings from restricted countries, with many fans opting to watch remotely or redirect support to matches in Canada or Mexico. Advocacy groups warn that the policy risks turning the tournament into an exclusionary event, contradicting FIFA's long-standing emphasis on global participation and accessibility for supporters of every qualifying team. sparking fears of wrongful detentions and eroded fan confidence. During recent congressional hearings, Lyons stated that ICE's Homeland Security Investigations Division would be integral to the overall security framework for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, focusing on coordination and public safety across host cities. When pressed by Democratic lawmakers on whether the agency would commit to pausing enforcement actions during matches or related events to avoid intimidating international visitors, Lyons declined to make such assurances, emphasizing ICE's dedication to securing the tournament while upholding immigration laws. This stance has intensified worries among fans and organizers that aggressive operations could lead to detentions of attendees, including those from countries already facing travel restrictions, potentially creating a chilling effect on participation. Critics argue the involvement sends a message of exclusion rather than welcome, especially amid broader crackdowns, and could deter global supporters from attending games in the U.S. portions of the co-hosted event. Democratic lawmakers, including Representative Nellie Pugh, pressed Homeland Security officials in hearings about how aggressive enforcement could deter international attendees and damage the tournament's global appeal. In a tense Capitol Hill session focused on 2026 World Cup preparations, Representative Nellie Pugh and other Democrats grilled DHS leaders on the potential fallout from intensified immigration crackdowns. Pugh highlighted fears that visitors from abroad might avoid U.S. host cities altogether if they perceive a real risk of detention, profiling, or family separation at borders and airports. Officials were asked directly whether current policies align with assurances of a welcoming environment for the millions expected to attend matches. Lawmakers stressed that any perception of hostility could slash tourism revenue, reduce fan turnout, and tarnish America's image as a reliable host for global events. The exchange underscored growing bipartisan concern that enforcement priorities might clash with the economic and diplomatic goals tied to co-hosting the tournament with Canada and Mexico. Werder Bremen, a prominent German Bundesliga club, canceled its planned summer trip to Minneapolis, citing unrest from the Operation Metro Surge immigration push, violence in the city, and uncertainty over U.S. entry rules for players. Werder Bremen, one of Germany's historic and progressive soccer clubs, abruptly scrapped its scheduled preseason visit to Minneapolis this summer. Club officials cited the chaotic atmosphere created by Operation Metro Surge, the large-scale federal immigration enforcement effort that flooded the city with agents and led to deadly encounters during protests. Communications head Christoph Pieper explained that the presence of unrest, including shootings tied to demonstrations, conflicted with the club's values of safety and inclusion. They also expressed serious doubts about whether all players could clear tightened U.S. entry requirements without delays or denials. The cancellation marks a clear signal from European soccer that current U.S. policies are already driving away international engagement and economic activity ahead of the World Cup. The Minneapolis immigration enforcement operation resulted in over $200 million in local economic losses, with 2 U.S. citizens fatally shot by agents during protests, highlighting risks that could foreshadow broader World Cup impacts. City officials in Minneapolis released figures showing that Operation Metro Surge, the Trump administration's major deportation initiative launched in December, inflicted more than $200 million in direct and indirect economic damage to the local area. The operation deployed thousands of federal immigration agents, leading to widespread disruptions in businesses, tourism, and daily life across the city. During escalating protests against the crackdown, federal agents fatally shot 2 American citizens, Renee Good and Alex Prey, in separate incidents last month, incidents that drew national outrage and intensified scrutiny of enforcement tactics. Local leaders described the financial hit as devastating for hotels, restaurants, retailers, and event venues already preparing for future international crowds. The combination of violence, economic fallout, and public backlash has raised alarms that similar operations in World Cup host cities could repel visitors, slash expected revenue, and create lasting reputational harm ahead of the 2026 tournament. Growing international calls for boycotts of the 2026 World Cup have emerged, driven by travel bans, ICE presence concerns, high ticket prices, and comparisons to Russia's exclusion after invading Ukraine. Voices from Europe, Africa, Latin America, and beyond are increasingly urging fans and federations to boycott or protest the U.S.-hosted portions of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Key grievances include the sweeping visa suspensions affecting citizens from dozens of qualifying or contender nations, the confirmed role of ICE in tournament security without guarantees against raids near venues, and soaring ticket costs that already limit access. Activists draw direct parallels to the swift bans imposed on Russia following its invasion of Ukraine, arguing that aggressive U.S. policies on immigration and foreign interventions warrant similar consequences for hosting privileges. Social media campaigns and statements from supporter groups highlight fears that attending matches in the United States could expose travelers to detention risks or family separations, prompting some to advocate redirecting support to games in Canada and Mexico or skipping the event entirely. Advocacy groups issued travel alerts warning potential visitors of ICE risks, while some European voices and former FIFA figures like Sepp Blatter have voiced support for fan boycotts over U.S. policies. Several international human rights and soccer supporter organizations have released formal travel advisories urging fans planning to attend the 2026 World Cup in the United States to exercise extreme caution due to heightened risks from immigration and customs enforcement operations. These alerts highlight the possibility of random checks, detentions at airports or stadiums, and family separations, even for those with valid tickets and visas. In Europe, fan coalitions and media outlets have amplified calls to avoid U.S. venues, framing the situation as a matter of principle amid visa restrictions and reported enforcement abuses. Former FIFA president Sepp Blatter publicly endorsed the idea of organized boycotts by supporters, stating that the tournament should not proceed without guarantees of safe, unrestricted access for all qualified nations' fans. These developments have fueled online petitions and social media movements pushing for reduced participation in American host cities. Despite assurances from the White House task force that borders are secure yet welcoming, critics argue these measures create a chilling effect on tourism, potentially undermining the economic boost expected from millions of global visitors to the co-hosted event. The official White House task force for the 2026 FIFA World Cup has repeatedly stated that U.S. borders remain fully secure while remaining open and hospitable to legitimate international travelers attending the tournament. Task force representatives emphasize advanced planning, coordination with FIFA, and enhanced screening to deliver safe experiences without unnecessary barriers. However, immigration policy experts, tourism analysts, and event organizers contend that the combination of expanded visa suspensions, indefinite processing delays for dozens of countries, and ICE's active role in security planning has already produced a measurable chilling effect. Early booking data shows declines in international reservations for U.S.-based matches, with projections indicating billions in lost revenue from reduced visitor spending on hotels, dining, transportation, and merchandise. Critics maintain that these policies contradict the economic promises made when the U.S. secured co-hosting rights, risking a diminished global turnout and long-term damage to future major event bids. And as critics maintain that these policies contradict the economic promises made when the U.S. secured co-hosting rights, risking a diminished global turnout and long-term damage to future major event bids, it's clear this isn't just about soccer. It's about America's image on the world stage. We've covered the Peace Prize irony, visa suspensions blocking fans from powerhouse teams, ICE's unyielding security stance, congressional clashes, club cancellations like Werder Bremen's, massive economic hits from operations gone awry, rising boycott calls echoing Russia's fate, travel warnings from advocates, and the White House's defiant assurances amid a tourism chill. The stakes couldn't be higher as the World Cup nears. That's the unfiltered truth tonight on Laura Ingraham Reports. For more Zero Filter briefs like this, subscribe to Zero Filter Brief. Stay informed, stay vigilant. Good morning.